Hello and welcome in this lesson. In this lesson we will repeat or learn some new things about functions. Suggest you to open your GIST, JavaScript cheat sheet and add the things that we will learn today. So, you can think of functions as little factories that take input as arguments and return output. So let's check an example. We have a function called add with two arguments, x and y. This is the body of the function. It sums x and y and returns the sum. And if we log in the console the name of the function and put the params 3 and 4, we will get the return sum of those two numbers. So let's check it out. Let's right click and click inspect. Go to console and copy paste the function. And now let's call the function add 3 and 4 and it returns 7. So when we are inside of console already, we can just call the function. We don't have to actually write console log. But if we are trying to figure out what is wrong with our program or to see which part gets executed or not, inside of our code we use console log so that then we can check in our console while the program is running if it will print something. So this is similar to hero say, and then we say what the hero should say so that we see if this part of the code gets executed. So let's always rather write console log and function call. Okay, so this is the basic how the function works. It has a name, it has arguments, it has a body, and the last thing that is written, it's returned when we call the function. Okay. Function hoisting. You can define a function lower down in a file than where you use it to. So let's see what that means. We delete this. So we will first make a function call and then define the function. So we have to rename it now, or we close it and open it again. So now if we try, oh, it still has it in the memory. Okay, so we will say console log and let's call this multiply and then 3 and 6. Okay, it doesn't know how to do it, but if we I apologize, I have to click edit to change something. So if I change this to multiply, then the console will actually log 7, but because we call it multiply, we also should actually change it so that it multiplies, and now we should get 3 times 4. So even though we first called the function and then defined it, program searched for the function and went back and returned what was inside of the function. Okay, so it doesn't matter what is the order, as long as we have all the parts that are necessary. Function scope. So any variables declared inside a function are only accessible inside of that function. So if we have function fff with arguments a and b, and inside of the function we create a new function and then return the sum of all the three, a, b, and c, we can log the function call with a and b, but we cannot call the c. We cannot log the c because c can be only accessed inside of the function. We cannot call it outside of the function. And console log is obviously outside of the function. So it can be used inside, but it can be used outside of the function. So let's try it out. We have a function. We do the function call. Yes. So it does 500 plus 3 plus 7 plus 4, so it's 507. But if we do console log c, we get an error. But let's see. If we make a console log a part of the function, so here where we define variable c, we will also make a console log. And now when we call the function, we should get first the console log c and later the console log of what is returned inside of the function. So you see, we can only use c inside of the function and not outside of the function. So here we used console log inside of the function. Okay, so let's move on. Functions as values. Functions can appear in any expression. You can assign them to variables. You don't need to give them a name. So as you can see, we will assign function to the variable add. So we create a new variable with the name add, assign it a function. Let's copy this to our console. And now we have to make a console log call of the function. Now be careful. We have a variable add, so maybe you would assume that we could just call the variable add. But when we call the variable, it returns the function. But what we actually want, we want computer to execute the function and give us the result of the function. In this case, we have to make a function call with a and b. So let's make 5 and 7, and now we can get a result, so the function gets actually executed. So in this example, we just called the variable, and here we actually called a function that is assigned to our variable add. So as you can see, we can assign functions to variables. Okay, now we can move to higher order functions. Because functions are ordinary values that can appear in expressions, you can pass a function as an argument to another function. Let's see how that works. So we have a function calculate, and we have arguments a, b, and operation. And this should return operation A and B. And then we have another function add, where we take A and B and return a summary of A and B. So when we make a console log, so when we call the function, we can call the function calculate with A and B as arguments, and instead of operation, we actually call this function that then calculates, that takes A and B and calculates them and gives us the summary. So let's see if this will actually work. Yes, it works. So, for example, we could have another function that would be called, again, multiply, and also takes an A and B, but this time it multiplies. So, okay. So now we could use the whole same thing, just that as an operation we would use the function multiply. So let's see if this will work. Maybe we can just do, we have to copy everything. Try it out, and we get multiplied A and B. So we can call multiply, or we can call add. As you can see, we basically just replace the function as an argument in the function. Okay. So things are a little bit confusing maybe. It's hard to remember how exactly these things work. That's why it's very important that you create a cheat sheet, that you take time and play around with all these rules and possibilities. And the more we will practice, the more we will also remember how things work and also come up with all this by ourselves. So the next thing is higher order functions. Everything inline, why not? So basically, we could technically, instead of writing function calculate and take the arguments a, b, and operation, and I will just copy it here just that you can see it. So instead of this, and then calling the add function, so this part and this part, we can actually just make a console log and put everything inside of the console log. So we just do the definition and the function call at the same time. So we say log function AB operation, return operation AB, and then give it an argument 3, 4, and function AB, which returns A plus B. And this will give us the same result. But this thing is not very readable and can be only used once. So we now console logged it, but we cannot access it because our function doesn't have any name. We cannot call it again. So it's not the best style, but maybe you will also stumble upon this thing, just that you know that this is also possible. Okay, higher order functions array prototype map. So there are some built-in functions in JavaScript that accept functions as arguments. .map takes a function that transforms the content of an array and creates a new array. What does that mean? We have an array first with 3 elements, 3, 4, and 5. And we want to create a second array called second. that will take the first array, apply map method or function, and as argument use another function plus 50. And then we want to log the second array. And now if we check what is plus 50, function plus 50 will take x, so it will take each of the values and return x plus 50. So 3 plus 50, 53. 4 plus 50, 54. 5 plus 50, 55. So let's check it out. This is map. Tada, it works. So maybe you can play with this and you can say, I don't know, oh, we have var names and we have Anna, Milan, and Sonia. We take the second array, that will be names with surnames. It takes the first one, maps it with add surname, and we want to print out the second array. And now we have to write a function for names with surnames that takes x and returns x plus, let's say that all of them have the same surname. So we have to make a space and write surname is a surname, or yeah, the surname. So it will be Anna surname, Milan surname, and Sonia surname. Let's see if this will work. So add surname is not defined. So this is actually where was the mistake. So let's see it now. Let's see. It returns x plus surname. So it still takes the old things. So let's clear. So we have var names. Names with surnames is, here is the error. Now I see it. It still takes the first array, but we want it to take names and map them with this function. So names. Now it should work. So we get Anna surname, Milan surname, and Sonia surname. Super. So now we can return to the old example. Okay, so we have it. Okay, now we can move to the next super awesome predefined JavaScript method, for each, which will save a lot of time when we have to loop through our array. So whenever we have to loop through array, if you remember, we define, we have to name the array. Then we have to say for var e equals 0, e is less than the length of this array, and then e plus plus, and then we say log x to get this. But now there is a shorter for each, so you can use for each to loop over items in an array without having to whip up a for loop. So let's check it out. This will return 7, 8, and 9. So we could also say console log x plus 10, and it would loop through the whole array and add 10. So we will get 17, 18, and 19. So this is very awesome and replaces our for loop. So remember it. This is how you write it. Array dot for each, and then function that takes x. X is any of the array members, and to this x it applies what comes to the body of the function. Great. Let's finish here for today, and the next time, in the next lesson, we will go through returning a function and returning an object with functions. So see you in the next lesson.